Hey Pearlies, welcome to the Pearlcast. This is episode 11. Can you believe it? My name is Angie, also known as Knitted Skeins on Instagram and Ravelry. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you're new here, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. As you can see, I'm wearing my Tolsta tee. This is a pattern by Rebecca Clow. I finished this earlier this summer, I think in June, if I remember correctly. It is already a favorite. I wear this at least once a week to work every week. I do love it so much. So I definitely see many more of these on the horizon for me for next spring and summer. As you can see from the title, and as I mentioned last episode, I'm going to be discussing my fall knitting plans today, and even a little bit into winter, probably taking me through the end of 2026. I do this every 3 or 4 months on my own, but I thought maybe you might be interested in what I've got coming down the pike, so I thought I would discuss it. If this is something that you're not interested in, let me know and we won't do it again. It is going to be a bit of a longer episode because of that, because I'll do my regular stuff and then we'll throw that in there as well. So if you haven't already, grab yourself a beverage. I got my water. I'm sure that I'm going to need to take a couple of sip breaks here and there since I'm going to be running my mouth for a while. All right, so let's start with finished objects. As I record this, today is August 15, Saturday, August 15. Tomorrow we're heading up to Michigan to the baby shower for my nephew's and his girlfriend's baby. So I'm excited about that. And because of that, I had a timeline for those baby objects that I wanted to finish. You saw that I got the Steel Buddy done last episode. So first we're going to talk about the Unicorn Lovey. I did get it finished. That calls for a 3mm hook. I did use a 3mm hook on the head and arms. I did find that very small of a hook for the yarn, which is fine for the head and the arms because those need to be stuffed. So you definitely want a tighter gauge for that. But for the blanket portion, I went up to a 4mm. I used loops and thread yarn that I got at Michael's. I used this cream color. There's this periwinkle bluish purple. I've got a light blue. We've got mint. And we have light pink. So those are the colors. I did use a little bit of a goldy color. That is some Knit Picks Brava that I had in stash for the unicorn horn. And there was a bit of a darker blue in the loops and threads that I used for one strand of the rainbow mane. Here is the Unicorn Lovey. Is this not adorable? So this is the Knit Picks that I mentioned. The black is left over from the Steel Buddy kit, and I used that to embroider the eyelids on there. And we've got the little arms, so it's just something that the baby can hold on to when she wants. I've got the different colored yarn for the mane. And the pattern calls for the blanket portion to be a granny square. I started to do the granny square, if you remember last episode, and I didn't really like the way it was laying, and I decided to do a round ripple instead. So that is what I did. Let me do it backwards here so you can see that. But I just did a round ripple for the blanket portion, and then I sewed the head and arms onto that in the middle. So this is the Unicorn Lovey. The pattern is by Crochet Musings, and I believe if you do it on her blog, she's got it on her blog, I think the pattern is free, or you can pay for the download. I just paid for the download. I did wet block the blanket just to soften it up a little bit, and it is really nice. This is a superwash, I believe this is a superwash merino, 100% superwash merino. So it's really nice, and it should be easy for them to clean. They'll have to, obviously they can't put it in the washer because of the stuffed head and arms, but it should be fairly easy to spot clean should they need to. So that is finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 is the Heartstrings Baby Blanket by Susan Galbraith. This blanket called for a US 7 4mm needle. I ended up going up to a US 8 5mm needle. I just thought it gave a drapier fabric with the yarn that I was using, and I liked that better. The yarn that I used is Karen Blossom Cakes yarn in the Blossom colorway, which is pinks, purples, blues, and some mint green variegated, which is so pretty, and it is super soft. It is a 60% cotton and 61% cotton, 39% acrylic, and I believe it's one of those blown in yarns, so I believe the cotton is the tube and the acrylic is the yarn inside. It is super soft. It's going to be easy for them to take care of, and I just really enjoyed working with that yarn. It made a beautiful baby blanket, and this is it. I made the car seat size blanket. There's 3 different sizes in the pattern. So that's what it looks like in the front. And then it is reversible. So this is what it looks like on the back. So I did make the car seat version. There's 3 different sizes. They have a security blanket size, which is the smaller size, the car seat size, which is the middle size, and then a larger blanket size. I do actually have 3 more balls of the Karen Cakes yarn, and I will be making the larger size. I actually did start out making the larger size, but I was afraid that I was not going to have it finished in time for the baby shower. So I put that on pause and made the car seat size so that I would have this for the baby shower. I do plan to finish the other blanket in time for the birth, which is November. So I still have a few months for that. So I will finish that up and send that with probably a couple other things before or right after the birth. So that is my second finished object. I just really enjoyed working on that. If you are needing a baby blanket pattern, that one is really nice. It is easy enough. It's just all knits and purls. The pattern is easy enough that after a couple of repeats, it's easy to figure out. If you can read your knitting, it's easy to figure out, so you don't have to carry the pattern around with you, which is nice. And then my last finished object is a spinning object. And if you would remember, I started that braid. It was an older braid from my stash from 2014, and it's from Diabolical Yarns, which she's not dyeing any longer. She does still have like notions and project bags and such, but she's not dyeing yarn or fiber anymore. But this was 100% Falkland in the Flamingos on a Croquet Lawn colorway. And I will put here a picture of what the braid looked like before I started. And then here are what the bobbins looked like before I applied them. So the finished objects, I actually got 3-ish skeins because I started to apply it on my little nano e-spinner. So this braid is, or this hank is a little bit smaller, and this was plied on my e-spinner the first time I tried plying on it. It actually didn't do too bad. At the time, I thought I wanted to just go ahead and move back over to my regular wheel, and so I applied this on the e-spinner. Then I moved over to my regular wheel and I applied this bigger skein, and I think it's a little loosely plied. I think that I was going too slow. I think now that I'm starting to get my skills back, I can go a little bit faster, but I need to find that sweet spot where it's not too slow that I'm underplying, but not too fast that I'm overplying. So I'm gonna get there. So I got this from those, and then after I finished plying this, there was a little bit of singles on the first bobbins from this, and so I went ahead and plied those together and got another small one. So I ended up total with about 370-ish yards of a 2-ply. So I'm guessing this is probably somewhere between a sport and a fingering. And then I did have a little bit left after all of this, and I wanted to practice my chain plying. I used to be really good with chain plying. I had gotten quite a few braids of fiber back when I first started spinning that were gradients, and I wanted to keep the gradient as it was dyed. And so the best way to do that is with chain plying, and so I had gotten really good at it. So whenever I have just little bits left on a single bobbin, that's the perfect time to practice the chain plying. I did get to practice that, and I ended up with this. I think this is maybe 20-ish yards of a 3-ply because it's chain plied. It's probably more of a DK-ish to worsted weight. So this is a little, looking at it, I don't know if you can really see. I'll put it a little bit closer. It's, for the most part, it's not too bad. There are a few places where it's a little overspun, I think. But I think it's usable, and I may be using this as a mini in a project that coming up that we'll talk about here in a little bit. That is my last finished object. So now we're going to go on to works in progress. And I have 3 works in progress. The first work in progress, I am not sure if I mentioned this in a previous episode or not as something that I wanted to do. The project is called the Quartet Socks by Brie Christine. These are a color work sock, but not a lot of color work. Mostly the color work is over 7 rows of a transition that you use in between the colors. I thought that this would be the perfect sock to match my ranunculus from my very first episode. If you remember, I used the March Hare colorway by Suburban Stitcher. I held that double along with a thread of the Rico design Make It Tweed in the pastels. I love that sweater so much, and I'm waiting for it to get cooler so I can start wearing it again. But I had 13 12 or 13 grams of yarn left over in the March hare. And I wanted to make matching socks. Obviously, that's not enough yarn to make some socks. So what I thought was I would mix it with some light pink and some light green, because there is some light green and light pink in that March hare colorway. And I'm sorry I don't have that tag any longer, but here is a picture of what the skein looked like beforehand. And it is still on her website as available, which is where I got the picture. So if you like it, you can head over and get you some. So I wanted a light pink, and so I placed an order with Knit Picks. So this is one of my acquisitions, so I will show it to you early, but they had some new colors in their Knit Picks stroll fingering weight, and so I got petal pink. So this was the pink that I used. And then if you remember, I had gotten that melon color. And so here is the melon color in the Knit Pick stroll. And when I made my order, so in the picture you can see the transition color is like an ivory or a cream, or maybe it's even white, I'm not really sure. But I thought that would be too close to the March hare colorway and it wouldn't really show much. So I thought a beige might be nice for the transition, and I got this from Knit Picks, this Mighty Stitch fingering in the latte color, and so that's what I'm using for the transition color in the heels and toes. I have been working on these concurrently, and these have been my work project, and this is where I'm at so far. I really like how these are turning out. I've started with the pink, then I've got the transition, and this is the color, this is the only color portion is where these colors transition. And what she has you do is the row before you start the color chart, you increase stitches, and then you do the color chart, and then you decrease back down. Because of that increase in stitches, I decided not to go up a needle size for the color work portion. If you remember on the Bunny Kisses socks, I did do that on the color work portion of that, and I didn't really think that I needed it. And so I decided to just use the same needle, especially since she has you increasing and decreasing. I've got the pink, the latte, the March hare, the latte, and the melon. And that's where I'm at on the second sock as well. So I'm at the same place. I'm ready to do the transitioning with the latte, and the pattern at this point has you transition back into the, which I'm using the pink, the first color, has you transition back into there, knit half of that, and then you do a short row heel. I do not like a short row heel on my socks. I don't feel that it's big enough to comfortably fit my foot. I've knit quite a few different short row heels, and I don't feel that it really fits my heel well. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to continue on and knit this as a tube until I get to the toes, and then I will do an afterthought heel, and I will cut in a line halfway through this neck section, which is where she's got the heel going, and I will add the heel in there. And I may actually go ahead and do that before I get to the end. I know pretty much how much length that heel adds to my socks, and I know how much length the toe adds to my socks, but it's just going to be a little bit more accurate if I do the heel before I get to the end. So I will probably transition into the pink, finish the pink, and then go back in and add the heel is what I'm thinking. The heel's going to be the latte color and the toes will be the latte color. So I'm really liking how these are turning out. I think they're really pretty and they're going to go with that ranunculus really nicely. I am using a US 0 2mm needle. I'm doing, as you can see, the 9-inch circulars, which I'm enjoying. Never thought I would say that, but that is, look, just checking my notes here. That is it for the Quartet socks by Brie Christine. My second work in progress is the No Need to Panic by Casapinka. She calls for a US 6 4mm and a US 7 4.5mm. Because the yarn I'm using, it is a DK, but it's a lighter DK. I really liked the fabric I got using a US 4 3.5mm. So I am using that needle, and I went up a size than I normally would make to make up and get the correct size. Although I did notice I'm at a point now where I see where the larger needle is coming in, and so I am going to be bumping up to a US 5 for that portion of the pattern. It says it's to eliminate the puffiness of the sleeves. Not sure how that's going to work, but I'm trusting the pattern. So there's that. The yarn that I'm using is the Universal Yarns Bamboo Pop in the turquoise colorway. This is 50% cotton, 50% bamboo, and it is so nice. It's so nice and soft, and when you block it, it just gets even softer. The bamboo gives it a really nice sheen. The cotton is going to be really nice for wearing it in the spring and summer, so I'm looking forward to finishing that up and getting to wear that. This is, I believe I mentioned last episode, this is going to be my last spring and summer top, and it'll probably be finishing up right about the time our knit along finishes up, which will be perfect. I got yarn tangled here, sorry. So this is what I have finished so far. So she's got you starting in the round, and then you, sorry, let me get this where it's, so the front is in the front. Then you do short rows in the back, and then you go back into the round, and then you start your yoke increases. I am in increase yoke patterning, I forget how she calls it, but there's 5 different pattern sections for the yoke. I'm in number 4. So I finish this one and then go into the 5th one, and then I believe is when I split for the sleeves. I'm making pretty good progress. I really am enjoying it. I like the fabric. The texture is nice. There's enough going on in between. You can see the different texturing that it definitely keeps your interest. Like I said, I'm really enjoying using this yarn, and it's working up really nice. So I'm looking forward to finishing that up. I'm almost ready to start my second ball of yarn. So that is my last knitting whip. My third and final work in progress is a spinning project. I decided to spin up another one of my newer braids that I've gotten recently from Wound Up Fiber Arts, and it is 100% Shanico, and it's called A Beautiful Mess. And here's what the braid looked like before I started. And what I did is I opened the entire braid and I split it lengthwise, 4 different strands, and I weighed them out so that they were all pretty much the same amount. And so I got 4 balls that look like this. And so then I'm going to spin these end to end and ply them. So I've got the first one done, and then I have these 3 left. So that's where I am with the spinning of that. And this is my first bobbin done. And it is so pretty. So the colors are red and pink and purple, orange, yellow, and this tealy blue. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to ply up. I think it's so pretty already just in the singles. There we go. So far my singles are fairly consistent. I'm a human, so I'm going to not be 100% consistent, but this is pretty consistent, and I'm hoping that I'll get a fingering weight version of a 2-ply when I'm done. So that is my last work in progress. Real quick, we'll go over needle adjacent projects. I've got 2 listed. The first one is the Hearthside Pullover by Wool and Pine. This is a brioche fingering weight sweater that you hold the fingering weight double, so it ends up being a DK fabric, but it's brioche, and I love brioche. And when I saw this, I thought, oh, this is perfect. It's going to be so squishy and warm. It calls for a US 8 5mm and US 7 4.5mm. I have not swatched for it yet, so I'm not sure if I will be using those needle sizes or not. But I found this sweater earlier this year, like probably like February, March-ish. So I've had it on my list for quite a while, but it was just here this past week when I decided that was going to be my first fall sweater knit after I finished this No Need to Panic, that I really started looking at it to see what yarn I needed. And that's when I noticed that it was fingering weight held double. And then, you guys, this is so exciting. I'm so excited about this. I noticed that it was written for leftovers and minis. So when you hold the 2 strands of fingering together, it kind of doesn't really matter what colors you're using. You don't need all of the same color. You can mix and match. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect, because I have so many single skeins of fingering weight yarn that I have bought over the years. And my thought at the time was, I can always make socks, but I can only wear so many pairs of socks, and I've already got a drawer full that's overflowing. So this is going to take, for my size, I believe it will take at least 8 skeins of fingering weight yarn. That's going to be 8 skeins out of my stash. Beautiful yarn that I've been waiting to use. I'm going to get to use it, and it's going to be gorgeous. I cannot wait. I haven't started going through the stash yet. I will probably do that over Labor Day weekend, because I don't think I'm going to get to it much before then. If I do, then I'll obviously go through stash before then. But this is going to be my next sweater knit, and I'm going to get to use 8 skeins, possibly even 10, depending on my gauge and all that good stuff, but at least 8 skeins of fingering weight out of my stash. So excited, so excited. The next item that I'm having for needle adjacent is one that I have not mentioned before, because it literally just came up in the last 2 weeks. My husband is a member of a veterans motorcycle club, and they're spread out all over the States and even some in Germany. They get together a couple times a year to hang out and ride and all that kind of stuff. One of his friends in that club, his name is Squid, because he was in the Navy. Real original, right? But because his name is Squid, I was showing my husband the seal when I made it. He was out of town. He was with his buddies. when I showed him that seal, he mentioned, hey, can you make a squid? So I looked up patterns for squid and I found Squishy Squid. It's a free pattern. Squishy Squid is a pattern by Jade Gauthier Boutin, and I probably have butchered that, and I do apologize. That is what I'm going to make for him. He's going to be meeting up with this guy over Labor Day weekend, so I am making him one out of yarn that I will show you in acquisitions, but I am using the yarn that is called for as Premier Parfait Chunky, and so it's like a velvety chenille type yarn, really pretty. He wanted a safety color, like safety orange or bright yellow or green or pink or whatever. So I did order 3 different colors so that he could figure out which one that he wanted me to use. And he decided if I only had time to make one, that he wanted green. If I have time for 2, he wants a pink and a green. So that is my needle adjacent, or that is a needle adjacent. It does call for a 4mm hook. And at this point, that's all I've got to say. I did get safety eyes. I got a whole pack of like different sizes from Amazon for like $6 because it seems like I'm making a lot of things now that need them. And so I thought, well, this way I'll just have its different sizes on hand and I don't have to order some every single time. Okay, so that's all for needle adjacent. If you watch a lot of knitting podcasts, you have probably seen many different podcasters talk about a Make 9 earlier in the year. And that is 9 projects that you would like to accomplish within that year. Earlier this year, when I saw that, I made my own Make 9. I had done that before I ever started this podcast, so I didn't bring it up. But I thought with it being time to evaluate my goals for the year and where I'm at, and now that we're getting into the last few months of the year, I thought, well, this would be a good time to show my Make 9 and see where I'm at on the progress for that. So I've got my yarn journal here. The Make 9 that I came up with is the ranunculus, the Tolsta tee, the Bunny Kisses socks, the Hearthside pullover, the agave, northeasterly blanket, prospect tee, quartet socks, and Ollie owl. And I will put a picture here of the Make 9. The ones that I have completed, there are pictures of my objects. The ones that I haven't completed yet are the project photos from Ravelry. As you can see, I have finished 5 of the 9 so far. The ranunculus, the one that I'm making the matching socks for right now, I finished that in February. The Tolsta tee I finished in June. The Bunny Kisses socks I finished in May. The agave I just finished last month. And the prospect tee I finished in May as well. The quartet socks will go here in this middle bottom, and I will soon have those done. And that's the only other one that I'm currently working on. The Hearthside pullover, which will go here in this box when it's done. That's my next sweater knit. And then I've got the Ollie Owl and northeasterly blanket that still haven't made it yet. And so those fall into my fall knitting plans. And I thought while I also had my journal out, I also did a bingo card. And you can see here all of the different categories that I used for my bingo card. And I actually do have a bingo on this top line. So I just finished bingo this month with the finishing of the Heartstrings baby blanket. And as you can see, I have almost a bingo here, almost a bingo here, and almost a bingo here. The items that I need for those, for this one right here, that is attend a fiber festival, and I plan to do that next month here in Dayton, in the Dayton area. We have a fiber festival every September. I believe it's the second weekend. I think I will have to double check on the dates, but it's called the Wool Gathering, and it's out in Yellow Springs at the Young's Dairy Farm, which they have such great ice cream. If you haven't ever been, and if you're in the area, definitely recommend checking it out. If you ever come to the area, it's totally worth a trip just for the ice cream. So I am planning to get that. So I will have that bingo next month. And then the bingo here is to make arm warmers. In the wintertime, when I'm sitting in the evenings watching TV or whatever, my arms are always cold. I don't like to wear long sleeves in the house, just hanging out. And I don't have a lot of long sleeve t-shirts and such, which is one of the reasons why I don't wear a lot of long sleeves in the winter. But my arms do get cold, and that's about the only thing that gets really cold on me when we're sitting in the evenings. So I thought I would make some arm warmers that would just go from the cuff up to just over my elbow. And that would be perfect for me to wear my t-shirts and then put those on, and then my arms would be warm. That's going to happen at some point this winter. When? I'm not sure. That may be a good project to take to work, and I'm probably going to do it out of bulky yarn. I do have some leftovers from a slipover vest that I did in January. It's some Malabrigo Viejos, I believe. I'm not sure though if it's enough to do sleeves for both arms. So I'll have to see on that. And if not, I may have to stripe it or something with something else. I don't have a lot of bulky in my stash. I don't use a lot of bulky. I don't really want to have to buy bulky. So I do have plans to make another one of those slipovers at some point because I really like it and I wore it a lot to work. So I may wait until I make another slipover and then use what's left and stripe. That is probably going to be the most cost-effective and easiest way to do that, because I don't know how many strands of fingering I would have to hold together to get a bulky weight. I think like 4 or something. I don't know about that. We'll see how that one works out. And then on the third bingo that I am almost at, it is to make a cowl. And at this point, I really do enjoy wearing cowls. So while I don't have one in mind currently, I don't see that being a problem. Now, whether I'm going to get it done in time for the end of the year to get a bingo, that I'm not sure, because I kind of feel like my fall knitting plans are a little optimistic. That is my yarn bingo. We will see where I get and how many more spaces that I'm going to be able to mark. But this is, again, my items. And this is where I'm at so far on my bingo card. And I am only using one project per square. So I can't use the same project for more than one square. That's my own arbitrary rule. So that's just me. As you can see, I've got a lot of work cut out for me if I think I'm going to fill that up. But hey, I did get at least one bingo. That's going to take us into that's going to take us into my fall knitting plans. I have 10 items on my list right now. I'm going to try to find a way to list them over to the side. Not sure how I'm going to do that yet. That's some technical stuff I've not played with yet. So we'll see if I can make that happen. If not, if I cannot figure out how to list it in a way that it's easier to read, I will post a picture of this list and leave it to the side so you can see. The first item is the Hearthside pullover. That is one of my make 9s, and like I mentioned, it's going to be at least 8 skeins of fingering weight out of my stash. I would ideally like to make at least 2 of those before next spring, because that would be at least 16 skeins of fingering weight out of my stash. I haven't even made the first one, and now I'm already wanting to make 2. So we will see how that goes. But for sure, one this fall, because that is going to be my next fall project. Number 1 is Hearthside pullover. Number 2 is Pierre Penguin. And here's a picture of what he looks like. If you remember, this was in that Crochet Furry Friends book that I showed in episode 1. It is what I'm going to make for my husband. He is a computer guy. That's what he does for work. And he likes Linux. And the mascot for Linux is a penguin. So he likes penguins. I do have all of the yarn for it. So it's just a matter of getting it started. This will more than likely be a work project because I don't think it's going to take very long to crochet up. And I do have the eyes, I have everything for it. So it's just a matter of getting the time to do it. This will probably be my next work project after I finish the Squishy Squid and the Quartet Socks. Once I finish Pierre Penguin, then I'm going to make Ollie Owl. And that's him. He is so freaking cute. And as soon as I saw him in that book way back in January, I knew I needed to have him. Once I finish Pierre Penguin, and he's also one of my make 9s, and that's why, because I just fell in love with him. Once I finish Pierre Penguin, he will be a work project, and he will actually stay at work. I'm going to keep him in my office. I don't think it will take very long. I think between those 2 projects, maybe a week each over my lunch and breaks, I think will be all that it takes. Just because when I made the Beatrice Bunny pattern out of that book, that was a lot bigger of a project, of an item. And I think I had that done in 2 weeks or less. I would have to look at my project page to be sure. But I only worked on that on my breaks and lunches, and I feel like I got that done within 2 weeks. So I think a week each on these 2 little guys will probably be all I need. At most a week and a half. So within 3 weeks, I should have both of those done. Hopefully, we'll see. When I finish the Hearthside pullover, we'll see how long that takes me. That may be the second sweater. I may go ahead and do that second one after I do. I'm hoping I can get a sweater done a month, basically. So if I can get the first hearth side done in September and then another one done in October, that's what I'm hoping. If I can do that, then my next item on the list is a cardigan. I would really like to have another cardigan for work. I like to wear them in the winter time, and even in the summer, honestly, because they keep that air conditioning jacked up so much that it's so cold in there that your arms are just freezing. I saw that Rebecca Clow has a new pattern out, just came out. It's called Loose. And she's got it in a vest version and a cardigan version in pure Rebecca Clow style. She doesn't give you just one option. I'm thinking that might be a nice cardigan to make in November, because with the little lacy eyelet details, I think it'll be a nice one for all season, especially for when I'm at work. I'm thinking I will probably make it in a neutral color so that it can go with a lot of different tops and colors. What color? I'm not sure yet. I have not really looked at even what weight of yarn it takes, but I'm really leaning towards that as a cardigan. So that will mark off one of my bingo squares, because that is one of my bingo squares. So that's kind of what I'm thinking as far as a cardigan. I had thought about doing another Jethro cardigan. I do have one, and I do get to wear that a lot. I made it in shades of pinks and purples with a gray to tie it all together. And I have at least 3 different colors of pink shirts and 3 different colors of purple shirts. I have a white shirt. I have a gray shirt. I have plenty of shirts that will go with that one. And so I get a lot of wear out of it, and I love it. And every time I wear it, I get compliments. So it is an awesome sweater. And so I do have plans to make another Jethro. So if I don't make the loose, then I will make another Jethro. Not sure what colors yet, but I'm definitely making a cardigan. So I'm hoping that the cardigan will be my November sweater project. In addition to that, I've got some blanket that I want to make. The first one is the Northeasterly blanket. It is part of my Make 9. I love this. This is perfect for scraps, advents, all of that. Or if you want to just get yarn just for it, you can do it too. I'm planning to use scraps, and I'm planning to do a DK version and hold the scraps double. I have a ton of scraps left over from socks that I would really like to use up. So I'm going to start this blanket this fall. I don't think that I will finish it this fall. I would like to have it finished, say, by March or April of next year. That's about 6 months. After I finish my cardigan, I'm not going to put another sweater on the needles right away. So that could be my evening knitting. That, and the next item on my list is Make a Ripple. It is a blanket by Kay Jones. She literally just published this, but she's been working on this on her podcast for the last 3 or 4 months, and I really liked it. Originally, I had thought to make a different blanket, by Helen Stewart. And right now, off the top of my head, I can't think of it. Hatbox, I think. Maybe. But then when I saw Kay doing this Make a Ripple blanket and she talked about putting the pattern out, I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm planning to start the Make a Ripple blanket in December, because I did order an advent. I ordered one, and if another dyer that had one last year is going to have another one this year, I'm going to order a second one. And I plan to use my advents for the Make a Ripple. And we'll see how far I get on that as far as length, and see if 2 advents is enough to complete it. If not, I'm not sure then if I would put it away until the next year and get another advent next in 2027 and finish it then, or if I would hold scraps double or some DK scraps or something. I'm not sure. It will be DK weight. The advent I got is DK. So I'm not sure at this point, because I'm not sure how much I'm going to get, how much length I'm going to get out of the advent that I ordered, and if I'm going to be able to get that second one. So that's kind of up in the air. But instead of working on a sweater in December, it's going to be the month of blankets for me. So I'll be working on the Northeasterly and the Make a Ripple. Outside of that, I do have one more sweater that I would like to get started towards the end of December, possibly even into January. And that is a sweater with the Malabrigo Rios Rosalinda that I showed in an earlier podcast. It was in acquisition. And originally I was going to do the Happiness Worsted sweater again. I've already done that twice. I do like that sweater. I'm now rethinking that that's going to be the sweater I use it for. At this point, I'm not 100% sure what sweater I'm going to use it for, because after making the toasted tea, which is what I'm wearing now, I love Rebecca Klaus patterns. I found out that this sweater pattern that she has in that Lene book of 52 weeks of sweaters, I think it's called Tane, and I'll put that here. She's going to be releasing that as a single pattern here in the next month or so, and that is a pattern that I'm interested in making. It's a raglan, and she's got like a fisherman rib along the raglan increases, and I think that's really cool. So that's an option. But she also has a book of her own patterns, 18 patterns, coming out at the end of November. And you can bet I'm going to be buying that book as soon as it is available. She is thinking November 26th, but she can't guarantee that that's the date. But she did say late November. So I'm keeping my eye out for that book. And once I get that book and I go through it, I will see if any of those patterns will be the one I use for the Rosalinda. But either way, I believe that it will probably be a Rebecca Klaus pattern, because I really, really, really like her patterns. So as you can see, my plans are quite optimistic. I'm not sure how much of those I'm going to get done. We'll see. Also, in addition to all of that knitting, I have had a couple of design ideas percolating in my head lately over the last month or so. And I think I'm about ready to put those down on paper and on my needles. One is a sock design. Once I finish all of the work projects that I currently have going and have plans for. So that would be the quartet socks, the squishy squid, Pierre penguin, and Ollie owl. Once I have all of those finished, I will try working on my sock design and see how that goes. That I don't know how long it will take me because it's not a full-blown pattern yet. Sometimes there's tinking back and ripping out and who knows what all else. I don't know how long that will take. Once I finish all of those work projects, that will be a work project, and I'm prepared for it to take as long as it takes. Once I finish the sock design, I also have a shawl design that I would like to make happen. Shawls are a little trickier than socks. I do have one shawl design out. This is actually one of my shawl design. It's one of that shawl design that I have out. That's a little trickier, takes a little bit longer. Not sure when that will be done, but it is something that I would like to at least get started this fall. That's a lot. That's 10 different things. 10 things on my list for my fall making plans. Very optimistic, I know. I'm prepared to not be too disappointed in myself if I don't get to all of them because it is a lot. But I do want to get as much of that done as I can. So we will see how much I can get done. That's it for fall knitting plans. I'm going to touch on our summer top make along real quick. We are getting close to the end. I think next episode will be the last episode before the end of our summer top make along. And you guys, we have had some beautiful finishes in the group so far. I checked just before I started recording this morning and there are 12 finished objects and they are all gorgeous. One lady, I believe her name is April, and I apologize if I am remembering incorrectly because I did not write it down. But she finished her top. I believe she made the toasted tea, and it was her second garment ever. And it is gorgeous. I was so impressed by that because Lord knows I was not making tops that soon into my knitting journey. They are all gorgeous. I am so impressed with all of them. And I can't wait to see who's going to win some prizes. I've got the 3 prizes for the finished object thread. That is a Progress Keeper from Littlest Charm Co., a Mary Poppins project bag that is going to look like this, only with the Mary Poppins fabric. I did make this one, and so this is the style that I'll be making. I don't have it finished yet. I'm really planning to do that over Labor Day weekend at this point. This is what it's going to look like, only with the different fabric. And then the third prize is a sweater quantity of the Rico Design Essential Sparkle Decay in the coral color. And that is the same yarn that I made my agave out of. I also have at least one giveaway for the chatter thread, and that is a Progress Keeper from Littlest Charm Co. If we get some more posts in that thread, I will do another prize as well. At this point, I'm not sure what it'll be, but I will do a second prize. That is it for the summer top make along. If you are working on it, wonderful. I can't wait to see your finished project. If you are not going to be able to finish it, make sure you get in that chatter thread and talk about it. You can show your progress so far, but get in that chatter thread so you have a chance to win a prize. Now we will move to acquisitions. I mentioned that I put in a Knit Picks order. That is the first of the acquisitions that I got. And I showed 2 of those items already in the works in progress portion, but that was the Stroll Petal Pink and the Mighty Stitch Fingering in Latte. So that was part of the Knit Picks order. And then I mentioned they had some new colors in their Stroll fingering, and so I picked those up because I think I mentioned in a previous episode I like to have these colors, these skeins on hand, at least one ball of each of a color, because I like to use them for contrasting heels and toes and that type of thing. So they had another pink called Sweetness that's new, and I picked that up. And they had a new yellow, which it definitely looked different on the screen than it does in in person. But this is the banana color. Those were the 4 items that I got from Knit Picks. Then the other items that I got since last time is the Premier Chunky yarn for the Squishy Squid. So I mentioned I picked up 3 colors, and I did what was going to be the closest to the safety colors that I could get. The first one is Mango. It's not really a safety orange, but it's about as close as I could get. Then I also got Bright Pink, and that's the Premier Parfait Chunky, and it actually came pretty quick. I ordered it directly from the Premier Yarns website. And then Pistachio. Like I mentioned, the pistachio is going to be the first one, and depending on how long it takes to make one, it doesn't look like it's all that big. I may, if I have time, I'll make it a pink one as well, and he can take both of them with him. I'm sure I'll use those other yarns at some point for some other kind of stuffy. It seems like all of a sudden, after years of not really making any stuffies, I'm making a lot. So I'm sure that I will get to use that yarn for something. That is actually all of the acquisitions that I have gotten. I do have a couple of things coming in the mail, mostly fiber for the spinning wheel. And I am also thinking next month I'm probably going to be getting a new e-spinner. I really, really, really am loving working on that Nano, but I really want something with bigger bobbins. I can only get about an ounce or so, or a little bit more than an ounce on each of those bobbins. You can see they're pretty small. So that's about an ounce and a 1.5 ounce or 1.05 ounces or so. You're limited. And so then also with plying, that's going to make smaller skeins rather than being able to do one big skein or even 2, breaking it into 2. I think I am going to stay with the same brand, the Electric Eel. I do like that brand, and they're very cost effective. Like, they're not as pricey as some of the others. There is one that basically it looks just like my wheel that I have, but it's just bigger, and the bobbins hold 8 ounces. So that's basically 2 whole braids, which means that I could spin everything on, I could do a lot more, basically. I can do a whole braid on one, in singles on one bobbin. Probably not going to do that unless I'm planning to do a combo spin. Combo spin is where I spin 2 different braids and ply them together. Right now I don't have plans per se. I would like to do one at some point. When and which braids, I'm not sure yet, but I will do that at one point, because at some point I would like to make a sweater out of hand spun. Not there yet, but in order to do that and not have a bunch of small skeins, I'm definitely going to want a bigger skeins. And with those bobbins holding 8 ounces, that's me being able to spin 1 braid per bobbin and then ply that and have that all in just 1 skein. That is why I'm leaning towards that one. And like I said, it's pretty cost effective. It's probably one of the least expensive ones out there, but I've been finding that the quality is still good. The nano that I've had forever, that I've just really been using a lot lately, like since Tour de Fleece, I have been trying to keep up with doing at least half an hour each night. I'm not doing it every night, but most nights I'm probably getting 4 to 5 nights a week, at least half an hour, if not longer, spinning. With all of the use that it's been getting in the last couple of months, it's really held up, and I've been really happy with the quality and what I've been able to do with that. I think I'm probably going to get that bigger wheel. It's currently out of stock until September. I have a good month or so to think about it some more, but I'm really leaning towards getting that in September. That is all I have for acquisitions. So let's move into general. For reading, I have not been reading a lot, you guys. I did read The Deal by Elle Kennedy. That is a book I have read many times. I found it years ago when she first came out with the series, and it's the first one in a series. It started out, it's 4 in a series. It follows 4 hockey players in college. They're all roommates, and it follows them. And then it has branched off into a couple of other series. There was a series that branched off immediately, and that was friends and relatives of the 4 main couples in the first series, branched off, and now she's even into second generation kids of the first 4 books. She started a series there. So she's gotten quite far with this series. It's a very good series. I really enjoyed it, and I have read this book many times. I started reading it again. It was part of the reading challenge that Kindle does every season. So we're in the fall reading challenge. That book was one of the books that was eligible for one of the awards, and so that was a good enough reason for me to reread it, so I did. Also, if you haven't read it, or if you are interested in it, it actually has been made into a television series on Amazon Prime. I have not seen it yet, but it is on my list that I do want to check it out. Other than reading that, I have been reading some books on Wattpad from some of the authors that I follow there. And I started reading Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. That obviously also is a show that's on Netflix you've probably heard of. I have not read the book, and it was also one of the books that was in that same group for the reading challenge, and I didn't want to pay $16 for a Kindle book. So I borrowed it from my library through Libby, and I'm reading it through Kindle. Even though past library books that I've read through Kindle counted towards my daily reading and for challenges, I don't know if they've updated something. It's not counting anymore. I realized that reading that book was not going to fulfill that challenge. So that's when I switched over to the deal. But I did like the book, so I'm continuing to read it. I'm getting maybe a chapter or two a day. I'm just kind of going through it, but it's interesting. If you haven't read it, it is a well-written book. Once I finish the book, I'm definitely going to be checking out the show on Netflix. I think it's got Sally Fields in it, and I've heard good things about it. I just haven't gotten around to watching it. So this will be a good impetus to do that. So that's pretty much all of the reading that I've done. I do have a book hanging out to be read. It's called The Obsession by Nora Roberts. I think it's an older book. I'm not really sure when it came out, but one of the ladies in the Corvette Club, she read it and she lent it to another lady in the Corvette Club, and they were both raving about it over the 4th of July when we were all together. It sounded good, so she passed it on to me once the other lady was done. I do have that, and I will be starting that because it does sound good. For watching TV, the same stuff. American Ninja Warrior on Monday nights. We are into the finals. All of the 3 different parts of the country, they do their qualifying. So they have a Western, a Central, and an Eastern. All of that's done. And then I think they had, 60 people? I believe it was 20 from each section of the U.S. 60 people going through the finals. And we've done the first night of finals, I believe, was this past Monday. So this coming Monday, and will be the next 20. I think they're doing 20 per night for the finals. I do not remember how many are going forward, but it's very interesting. They've got some new obstacles. I think they had 2 new obstacles, and they're racing each other. So it's 2 people that are racing on the obstacle course at the same time. Let me tell you, that's been very interesting, especially when they are like so close. Some of them are missing and early and falling in the water, and you just know that they're just so mad at themselves. But I mean, it happens. Everybody can't win, but it is just very exciting for me to watch. So I'm usually there with my knitting and my eyes glued to the TV. The other 2 shows that I was watching, the Surviving Earth, I think that might be over because I mentioned last episode that we had gotten to the dominance of the humans, and then there hasn't been an episode since. So I think because we kind of got to that point, I think we're done with that one. The last 2 weeks, there has not been an episode. Last week, there was a longer episode of the America's Fun Fact Edition. And so that one's not over yet. They had a 2-hour, and that kind of took the place where the other show was beforehand. And they did the Caribbean in the 2-hour special, and that was very interesting. So there was a lot of sea life and tropical forest type animals and that kind of things. It was really good. So that's all really that I've been watching. Like I said, I do want to see the Remarkably Bright Creatures on Netflix. I do want to watch the show based on the book that I reread. I believe the show is called Off Campus, if you're interested, on Amazon Prime. And there are a couple of other things that I'm wanting to get to. I'm just finding that I do watch quite a few knitting podcasts in the evening as well. So by the time I get caught up on knitting podcasts, there's not a whole lot of time for regular TV shows. It's slow going getting to those other shows, but I will, and I will share when I get there. The final thing that I want to talk to you about is the Fibernymph Dyeworks Inversibles yarn set in the lemon orange. If you will remember, this was a giveaway for a previous episode. I didn't hear from the winner before it was time to draw another winner. So last episode, I drew a winner, and that was at Faraday Farm 4800, and I will put that here. I have not heard from her yet. Faraday Farm, if you would please email me at uknittedskeins@gmail.com so that I can get this out in the mail to you. If I do not hear from Faraday Farms before I record the next episode, that will be a giveaway for the next episode. Faraday Farm 4800, please email me. My email address will also be in the description box below. So that's it. This was a long one, guys. I hope you stuck around for it. And if you did, please tell me in the comments what you were working on while we were chatting. I would love to know what you were working on. If you want to throw a picture in the group on Ravelry, I would love to see them. The link to the Ravelry group is in the description bar below. If you liked the video, please give me a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I enjoyed spending this time with you. I hope you did as well. I hope the next 2 weeks are wonderful for you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Knit happy, friends.